Hello and welcome. I'm Beth Cormanek with CIO and Foundry. Joining me is Kathy Kay, the Executive Vice President and Chief Information Officer at Principal Financial Group, who is joining us from the office in Des Moines, Iowa. Hi, Kathy.
Hi, Beth. How are you today?
Doing great. Glad you're joining us. And for the audience, so today we're going to talk about her strategy for building flexible teams, the leadership challenges of doing so in these new modalities of remote and hybrid work, finding and retaining IT talent, and she'll also give us a look inside Principal's digital journey. So with that said, and within our quick 20 minutes here, let's dive into it. Kathy, you started your job in the early months of the pandemic. What was that like, and how did you go about building relationships within your team?
Yeah, so I, as you said, did start during the pandemic. I did have the luxury, though, of interviewing before the pandemic. So I was interviewing just before everything shut down. So I was able to meet some people in person that I ultimately would be working with. That said, though, when I started, everybody was fully remote. And because Principal is a global company, I have teammates all over the world. The people that I was working most closely with and my leadership team, we were all remote. And so we were trying all different things to learn to get to know each other, learn ways of working. I think it was actually a little bit easier when everybody was remote, but literally I was trying all different things, meeting with people one-on-one, doing Teams meetings. I even started what we call Coffee with Kathy, which I just opened a Teams meeting. It's every Friday at 9:00. Anybody from my team can join, and we talk about whatever might be on their mind. And it was a way to really break down barriers. But I just think it's this ongoing trial of trying different things to connect with people, especially now in hybrid when you have people in the office as well as remote.
Mm-hmm. Coffee with Kathy, any agenda or just open to whatever anybody wanted to talk about?
It is. So I usually start with just maybe a couple of things that had been going on in the week, right? Maybe leadership meetings we were having, or if like last week we had an earnings call, so we might talk a little bit about that. This week, as an example, we had board meetings, so we'll give a little read on that. But then I just open it up to current events. Sometimes people will, dispel rumors they're hearing. Other times it's just things they're worried about externally. But it's really whatever's on their mind. We've done some fun things too to try and connect. We all walked one day together. We just, turned on, joined Teams, and we all went for a virtual walk together. So just different ways of connecting and trying to establish relationships in ways that you have to think differently because not everybody's in person.
Mm-hmm. And is Coffee with Kathy continuing to this day?
To this day, my team does not want to stop it, and they always still want it to be in Teams so that everybody has the same experience.
Terrific. So that addresses building relationships and creating collegiality. How about when it comes to the work itself? So how have you led future of work conversations in terms of what that's going to look like? And
so we have a lot of discussions about what it means to collaborate now. How do we make sure everybody's included in the way we work? We have been running agile teams for a while now. And in the past, almost everybody was in person, right, on their team. And so now we have to think about ways to still get the work done. But now you might have people all over the country, some in other parts of the world. So we have discussions on that. The technology certainly enables us to be more collaborative than maybe just a few years ago, right? But then we also talk about, does the work get more difficult, or are there work that we need to prioritize differently than maybe we had in the past because of constraints we might have on our teammates, constraints we might have on time zones, whatever. So what I would say is we spend a lot more time trying to plan and making sure we have the right capacity than we have in the past. And are we focused on the right things?
And so are you there yet? Have you figured it out? Do you feel like you're in a good place, or are you still iterating on these models?
So it's constantly learning. We've started prioritizing at the enterprise across the whole company. We've looked at ways of making it all more transparent. So having dashboards, because again, not everybody's in the office, right? How do we give transparency to everything that's being worked on so that teams can see how they connect to it? The other thing we try to do to make it as relatable to everybody is making sure they understand how the work that they're doing ties to our strategy and how the work they're doing might impact our customers. And we're finding that also is having a really good impact on how people feel connected in a way that maybe they hadn't in the past.
So another thing that's changed are consumer expectations. And I'm curious what you have observed about their changing needs and how you've responded with technology.
We were already on a digital journey when the pandemic started. So we knew that customers wanted digital experiences. They wanted them to be very simple, easy to understand. Some of the business that we're in, customers will say, I don't understand what it all means. And so, we have to think about how to make this experience very simple and easy for them. And so when the pandemic started, certainly we saw an uptick on adoption of a lot of our digital processes and our digital applications, if you will. But what was surprising, we actually thought more and more people will start going end-to-end digital, right? I want to do everything, no matter what it is, with Principal. I just want this digital experience. But what we're finding is, for some cases, that's exactly right. They'll want to leverage a whole digital experience, but depending on the type of decision they're making. So like as an example, if I'm rolling over my 401k into an IRA, and I think that's a huge decision because I've been saving for many years, it's a lot of money, I'm actually going to want to talk to somebody before I finally click. Even if all the data is there, even if we've given them a lot of information to help them make that decision, if our customers consider it to be a bigger decision than they feel comfortable with making on their own, then we make sure that they can access, humans very easily. And so what we've been designing is this seamless experience. If you enter digitally, but you want to talk to somebody, one of our advisors, one of our employees, we're making it easy to do.
Okay. I'm curious how you identified these areas where people want to interact with a person as opposed to do it all digitally. Like, was there a moment when you identified those and then figured out how to make it seamless, or is it just a matter of offering that no matter what they want to do?
No, it's a couple things. We get feedback from our customers. So as we're building an experience, we show it to customers, we get customer feedback. And then we also monitor, as they're leveraging our capabilities and we see them behaving in a way that's different than what we thought, we'll get feedback and say, we saw that you decided to talk to somebody when we thought you would have preferred the digital experience. What happened? And so that's really how we learned that, is by getting feedback, listening to our customers, understanding what is concerning them and how to make an experience that, meets the needs when they need it.
Kathy, another initiative, one that's more internal, was a tech rationalization that you led across the entire company. Tell us what that entailed.
Sure. I'll start by giving a little background as to why we actually did this. We had put together a new enterprise strategy for the company. And if you think about how our customers want to work with us now, again, not only because of the pandemic, but just because of expectations changing, when they're doing business with any company, they want it to be simple, frictionless. They want us to know who they are. They want us to be able to anticipate what they might need from us. And so to do that, to make sure that we are able to meet the needs of our customers, as well as build the capabilities that's required to move our strategy along, we really had to analyze the technology landscape across the company. And that's what application rationalization really is looking at all that, the technology that we have, all of our digital assets, comparing it to where we want to go and the capabilities we need, over the next few years, and then determining which things really need to go away because they're not going to be able to meet the needs of capabilities that we need to build in the future, what might need to be more modernized and maybe move to the cloud as an example, and then things that we might need to keep for a little bit, but ultimately need to sunset. And so that's really what the outcome was. We now have a repository of all the assets. We've had them dispositioned. We leverage that to build roadmaps of building out capabilities against our strategy, as well as, other things. Again, we get feedback from customers all the time. So if there's something we hadn't anticipated, being able to work that in, and as well as then simplifying the landscape across the company to glean efficiencies and also to be able to deliver a really good, seamless experience.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned efficiency. So how are you measuring those results?
Well, this is something we're testing, to be totally honest with you. We have a dashboard. So we're actually looking at, again, because we have a known set of applications now, we have line of sight of those that are modernized and those that are already where they need to be in our roadmap. We've identified which ones we're investing in this year, so we track the progress there. And then as we're sunsetting, we identify the costs that we're saving, track those. For any new investment, so, people will ask, are you just modernizing for modernization's sake? And the answer is no, we're modernizing because there's business value in doing that. We align it to the strategy. And so when we're doing those investments, those newer capabilities, there's a business case behind it. And so we track, are we getting the value that we originally thought we would? And if we're not, what's driving it? Or if we, if it's overperforming, how do we learn from that to develop business cases in the future? So it's all business driven.
Terrific. And you mentioned learnings. I wonder what key learnings do you take away from this process? Things about really what you could apply to the future, or somebody who's listening to this and wants to embark on a similar thing. Are there things you wish you'd done differently, or a strategy that you tried and was like, yes, this is really the way to go?
So at first, I will say we started focusing on what are those big pain points? What are we hearing the most? As we should. But when you start thinking about the broader strategy of where we want to go and how we really want to service our customers and deliver not only great experience, but the right sort of products and services that help them save more, prepare, more for retirement, allow them to live their best lives. We had to look at this more broadly and holistically, because again, we have to make sure that we're investing in the right things and then getting rid of things that are no longer relevant. Sometimes there's an attachment to something, an old system that you were part of building and you love that thing, but it's really not going to be useful in the future. We have to let those things go. So, that's really how it all started. And starting over again, I would say start from the strategy, make sure you understand how your technology lines up to that, and then go rationalize from there.
Yeah. I heard a little Marie Kondo in there, thank it for its service and move on.
Yeah.
That's terrific. So, it's, as companies around the country have experienced the Great Resignation, Principal saw some of that as well. Tell us, what did you notice and what has Principal done to address attrition?
Yeah. I will say I feel very lucky that we did not experience attrition at the rate of a lot of other companies. That said, though, it was elevated for us nonetheless. I will say Principal has always been very good about focusing on employees, making sure they understand the value that we place in them. Our culture is very strong. I mean, if you talk to employees who have been here for a long time, the number one reason is the culture. I feel valued. I see the impact that I'm making. And so, obviously, being competitive is table stakes. You have to be able to offer what the market is demanding to attract new talent from a compensation perspective. So we're, of course, focused on that. But then it's having conversations about the impact that they could really have in our company, the impact that you can have on customers, the opportunities that you could have across a global company, right? You can work here, you can work in other countries, you can work with people all over the world, you can get different kinds of business experiences, enterprise experiences. We're moving to a lot more modern technology, so you'll be able to learn new things. We put a lot of investment in upskilling. So again, as we put this roadmap together, we were able to identify where we would have skills gaps. And so we put a lot of investment in creating training that our employees can take. They can self-serve it. We have, teacher-led training as well. So whatever is working best for them in their language, because again, we're a global company, we have to make sure it's available in multiple languages. And so when you have those kinds of conversations, we're finding it's easy to attract talent. The same goes with retaining talent, right? How do we make sure our employees understand the value that they bring, and making sure they're supported, making sure they feel like they're part of a team. And again, I know I'm bragging about Principal a little bit, but we do a really good job of that. Our entire senior leadership team, we've been doing things to try and connect more and more. I talked about Coffee with Kathy. We have large, coffee sessions with the whole senior leadership team. If people happen to be on the campus, they could talk with us. We try and do different social activities. So we're constantly listening. We do pulse surveys multiple times a year. And based on that feedback, we learn what other things might be on employees' minds that we hadn't thought of. So those are all of the things we're doing. And I will say, I'm happy to report we're seeing attrition start to decline this year.
Terrific. So the other side of that coin is attracting new talent. And I'm wondering what you're doing to expand the pool of tech candidates.
Typically, we used to require employees to be on a campus, one of our campuses. We now offer over 90% of our roles can be from anywhere. So we give that flexibility, and that has opened our talent pool a lot, because in the past, when you're trying to recruit people to come to Des Moines or one of our other offices, and they weren't interested in relocating, you would lose them. Now we've opened that up, and so we're attracting a lot more talent. Also giving them flexibility, flexibility to work where they'd like, flexibilities in their schedules. That also has given us an advantage to, other companies who might not be as flexible. So those are some of the things we've been doing to attract talent.
Terrific. We are running short on time, but I will ask you very quickly, what technology are you excited about? What are you keeping your eye on in the immediate future?
I will say I started my career at General Motors, and even back then I was fascinated with artificial intelligence. So it has been something I have been keeping my eye on now that the compute is more than enabling AI and machine learning. I love seeing the different applications there. Of course, with that comes the whole, making sure that machines are learning ethically and with no bias. And so that's been fascinating. And then I would say the other thing, I'm fascinated with autonomous vehicles and all of the technology behind that. And I just think the next few years are going to be fascinating to watch all of that.
Agreed. So interesting. Well, we will keep our eyes on that as well. Kathy Kay, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Beth. I really appreciate it.
Great. We'll see everybody at the next session. Thank you.